Hi guys, we've got a very special guest today, a coach who's worked around the world, very highly respected. Omar, welcome.
Oh, hi, good to see you. Thanks for having me over.
Good to have you here. Now I'm going to try and get this right because you've worked at very many teams. So
Yeah,
currently with the Worcester Warriors,
correct.
and your role there is defence and kicking strategy.
Correct, yeah.
And then you've worked with Italy, Stormers, Kings, Sharks, Edinburgh, Lyon, Stade Francais. Have I missed anyone out?
Yeah, well, the odd consultation, Racing Metro, Pumas, and a couple of others, yeah. But that's pretty much right, yeah.
Sure. So all around the world, and also worked previously with Rassie Erasmus.
Yes.
Could you just tell us a little bit about your interactions with him, your knowledge of what he brings as a coach, and how you kind of see him having turned around the box, and what do you think was kind of the key fundamentals and him being able to do that in a very quick space of time?
Yeah, I mean, Rassie is an incredible coach. So in 2007, I met him and he gave me my first real shot with the Stormers. And at that time, the mandate was to do a whole collision sort of course for the Stormers to be more physical on defence. And Rassie is an incredible coach because from a technical standpoint, he's very passionate, he's very detailed, he's very systematic. And I think his emotional intelligence and how to get guys on board to get them in a sort of collective direction is very powerful. And when you've got that high level insight in terms of the game and people respect your technical ability to the level of his, he gets you on page so quickly. I mean, he can have a debate for 3 hours on the best way to place a ball. You know, he can do a 4-hour debate on the best way to fold around the corner on defence. He leaves no stone unturned. So I'm not surprised at his meticulousness that's led to the winning of the World Cup, because very few guys are as well planned as he is.
Yeah, sure. And we were chatting off air about, obviously just as key to what he's done has been that relationship with Jacques Nienaber, who's now taken the next step up. And another man you know very well,
Yes.
being Jacques, and you yourself are obviously very intensively involved in the defensive side of the game.
Yes.
What are your kind of memories of Jacques and what he does, and how do you think he'll make that step up now, going, as we said, quite a journey from initially a physio, then an assistant coach, and now head coach of the Boks? He probably would never have thought that when he started out.
No, it's incredible. I mean, Jacques done tremendously well. Look, he's a very passionate guy. He knows the game extremely well. He's so hardworking, and he takes so much pride in the defence. You know, back in the day we worked together in terms of like the system and the physicality to produce a top defence. And back then he was just a guy that would leave no stone unturned, would never take no for an answer. And I'm not surprised he's got where he's gotten. What he's done with the Boks defence over this last 2 years has been nothing short of sensational, honestly.
Omar, maybe chat just briefly about that defensive pattern that the Boks, obviously utilised. It got better and better, and then in the World Cup, it really seemed to be almost as on point as it needed to be, especially in that final. A lot of observers calling it a rush defence or that high line aggressive defence. Outside in, how would you kind of put it in a nutshell?
Yeah, well, I would say it's a high energy defence in the sense that it's a massive work rate required with massive concentration, because people didn't want to coach line speed D because you could do it for 40-50 minutes and you fall away and you concede a lot of tries, because you have to maintain spacing, alignment, width, line speed, make big shots, attack your attacking breakdown, all these things all in sort of one sort of all-encompassing system. And so it's not easy to do, but what Jacques done there is they hassle teams on attack, so they shut the options, they take out the passing lanes, they give you the perception that you can take the coast, and suddenly they're intercepting the ball and closing the space. And I think in the short corridors where you're playing off 9 or you're trying to get momentum, they don't give you space to breathe. I mean, the Boks, I think, set an incredible record, something like 24, 25 dominant hits per game, and I think the next closest is 16. They only conceded 3 tries a game, in line breaks against and so on. So they've got a way of hassling you, putting you under pressure, physically dominating you. They don't give you an inch on the gain line. You can't get an offload away, you can't get momentum, everything's a dogfight. And that's what they've done well. So I would say it's a high energy, high work rate D that cuts off options, and they've done it tremendously well. Yeah.
And then obviously we've got Six Nations and Super Rugby starting this weekend.
Yes.
Just looking from the outside, what are your expectations of the two competitions? From a South African perspective, which team do you think is best placed to maybe challenge for potentially a playoff and even the title? I don't know if you think any SA team's got that capability.
Yeah.
And Six Nations, is it England all the way, or do you see it going any other route?
Well, with Super Rugby, it's pretty interesting because you've got an old hand like Putter Heeman with the Bulls, and then at the Lions you've got a brand new coaching staff, young coaching staff. You look at Sean Everett, who's been in the game a long time, but first real shot as a head coach at Super Rugby. John Dobson taking over Stormers now. So I'd say the team that's got the most continuity in their staff, that's been around the block the longest, will probably do the best. It's really difficult to get buy-in from players with new management coming in, but sometimes guys who've been sort of like Sean and John, been at the Stormers and Sharks respectively for a long period of time with good stock of players, can go pretty far. I'd say Stormers is a dark horse to do really well, and Sharks would always do well. To win the tournament, I'm not completely sure of that, but I think a playoff is definitely within reach.
Yeah. Six Nations, England.
Six Nations is interesting because Wales, obviously, Gatlin being the cornerstone of Welsh rugby for so long, he's gone. Wayne Pivac haven't been at the Scarlets, playing sort of a running style, fluid game.
Yeah.
What is he going to change? How quick can he get the guys on page? Because international rugby, you get the guys in, everyone's motivated and wants to die for the cause, but you've got to get them buying into something solid. So Wayne Pivac's new. You've obviously got Andy Farrell, who's brand new, top defence coach, but now head coach. What style is he going to bring? He's going to be defensive. Is he going to bring more attack? I think Ireland need more sort of expansive attack. They've been pretty stuffy, but they play a heavy pressure game. Maybe they will change their tactics. I think England are poised to win it, in my personal opinion, because Eddie's a great coach, highly technical, as in Rassie, loves brute physicality, got continuity of squad, probably going to tweak a couple of things, maybe bring some new attacking options, and I think they'll be hard to beat on a continuity basis and a motivation basis, to be honest.
Sure. Cool. And then, Omar, I know you're a big stats man, you look intensively at all the different trends of the game. From your perspective, are there big changes in the way the game's being played or any trends? Where do you see the game heading? Is the fundamental still ultimately what it's always going to be about?
Yeah, I mean, people don't like to hear this, and it's just a fact of the game is the World Cup vindicated the kicking game, I think, and defence again, because all the teams that sort of had the highest kicking meters, most kicks in general play, best defences, all went to the playoffs, and those teams had the highest territory stats as well, and a high chunk of possession. So I think that hasn't really changed. I think the decision making around what we call the twilight zone, from sort of between your 22 and the 10 metre line, where you make a decision to play or clean up and kick the ball, teams that make better decisions there will really dominate, because there's a moment where the opposition's defence maybe in those zones is not paying attention, and you can capitalise on a counter attack or turnover attack opportunity. But I think those stats, a team with a top kicking game, top defence, and capitalises on their attacking opportunities, they're pretty much in the mix.
Yeah.
All the stats from the World Cup to show that.
Cool. And then, obviously, we've mentioned you've worked at various teams all around the world and worked with top players. I mean, who are some of the guys that have really stood out for you, maybe particularly from a South African point of view? I mean, I remember watching you at the Sharks driving under Esterhuizen during training drills, and you told him this year is going to be your year to become a Springbok, and now he's gone on to do that. You mentioned you've worked with a few others. Lukhanyo, who are the guys that really stand out for you, and maybe it's been really encouraging for you to see how they've progressed and got to the level they are now? Yeah,
there's a couple of stunning players that have come through. So if you look at even Sia, having coached him at 18 years old, to see him be the captain of the Springboks and win a World Cup, it's incredible. Faf de Klerk, I mean, coaching him with the Pumas, made the Lions. He's one of the most sought after scrum halves in the world. Like you said, Andre Esterhuizen, a massive man, a Goliath of a man, eventually fulfilling his talent. Lukhanyo, the list goes on.
Yeah.
Even Billy, to see Billy back in after coaching him with the Sharks, it's been pretty incredible. And I think those guys are really talented and gifted players who've gone all the way. Even to see Beast get the reward he deserves for being such a servant to the game, coach Beast at Sharks, and for him to win a World Cup as well. I mean, it's so warranted, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that was a great story. And just wrapping up, Omar, I mean, we speak of the players who are increasingly making a name for themselves in South Africa and with the Boks and then getting picked up. So overseas clubs, like Harlequin's now grabbing Esterhuizen, who's heading over there, and you're now coaching overseas. Are there any players you've seen on that side of the world who you think Jacques and Rassie should be looking at? Or do you think they've got a pretty good idea of who their overseas pool of players should be?
Oh, look, I mean, they're obviously, Rassie will always have a grip on things, especially talent-wise and performance-wise. I think Aka van der Merwe, the De Pre brothers at Sale Sharks. You've obviously got a host of guys like Jaco Kriel and them who are at Gloucester, who haven't been looked into for quite some time. There's a lot of world-class talent across there, and even keeping an eye on a guy like Andre now to see how he goes at Quins. Because Quins obviously play a fluid, electric style of rugby. Keep an eye on him. I think, there's a lot of talent that they could, still scope there.
Yeah, and a final question, just in terms of the environment or the culture that you found differs from local franchises in South Africa to the teams that you've worked with abroad. I mean, is it a very stark difference? Is there a way for our local franchises to improve so that teams, or players rather, want to stay rather than head abroad? I know it's always going to come down to money,
Yeah.
but how different is it in terms of the team culture?
Well, especially in the Premiership, because relegation is a real factor, it's really hardcore because everybody knows what's at stake. So everyone pitches up mentally, physically, strategically every single week and gives 1,000,000% because no one wants to be relegated. So you've got top teams like Leicester, Wasps, and these type of teams that are actually legitimately at the bottom. So, so it's serious business. So everyone pays attention. So the attention to detail and the physicality is beyond belief. Super Rugby is stunning, but there's no relegation. So, some games are big games, other games are big games, but if you lose and you take a hiding, you're like, we'll live to fight another day.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting contrast between North and South. Obviously, top 14, for example, with the French, for them, playing away, it's a bit of a chore. Playing at home, they take absolute pride. They don't like too many performance stats. They don't like being drilled with conditioning. So, in the North, you've got the English, you've got the Latin approach of the top 14, which stark contrast. And then you've got Super Rugby, which is beautiful to watch. But, without being relegated, it's there's no repercussion, which does take the pressure off. I think you don't want to judge setups. Every setup obviously works hard. Every setup's got a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But I think relegation is a real thing, and it keeps you on your toes.
Cool. Well, Omar, thank you very much. I appreciate you making the time.
Thanks for having me.
All the
Appreciate
best.
it. Cheers.